You're leaving? You're leaving? Really? It's a Marvel movie. When are people ever gonna learn? Hey everyone, David here. We are halfway through, only only one more movie to go before we finally get to Avengers 2. And we continue trotting along with Phase 2 of the Avengers Initiative with Captain America, the Winter Soldier. See this? See? It's about time that I got one. So the story is that after the Avengers, Captain America teamed up with S.H.I.E.L.D. in order to serve the country, continue doing what he does best. But the Winter Soldier arrives, and a new threat is imminent. And it is up to him, Black Widow, Nick Fury, and Falcon to stop him. Now, this is the funny thing about Captain America, the Winter Soldier, is that as an action movie, not necessarily as a superhero movie, or maybe as a superhero movie as well, as both an action movie and a superhero movie, Captain America, the Winter Soldier is good. It's a good movie. But as a Marvel movie, let alone a film that is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I dare say that this is actually the game changer. This is the one that contains something that was missing from Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World, and that is something that I obviously cannot talk about because I'm going to go ahead and keep this review spoiler free. Something happens in this movie that is going to change an awful lot of things. Almost every single character that is in this movie is not going to be the same afterwards, meaning they're going to be in completely different places and completely different forms and with different mindsets by the time we get to Avengers 2. I dare say that this is the movie so far in Phase 2 that you kind of need to watch if you're going to want to know what's going on with the Marvel Universe, at least the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially by the time Avengers 2 arrives. Because in some ways you can kind of skip Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World when you really consider the effects it had on the universe as a whole. Not a whole lot, some, but not as much. Captain America the Winter Soldier has something that I think is gonna set a chain reaction of events. I dare say even further that this is probably the Empire Strikes Back of Phase 2 so far, because as much as I really liked Iron Man 3 and enjoyed Thor the Dark World, this is the one where it just changes things. I don't know how many times to say that, because the characters that we gotten used to by the time Avengers came about, they're not going to be the same by the end of this film. They're in completely different places, the places that are outside their comfort zone, so it really makes you wonder, where are they going to end up next? This, along with Guardians of the Galaxy. Don't skip them if you want to know what goes on in Avengers 2, because so far, I think that there's several people that still don't know what Guardians of the Galaxy is, despite having shown the trailer in front of this movie. Now, this movie had different writers and directors than the first Captain America movie, and I think they did a great job with the material they were given. It seemed like they respected the character of Captain America and the people surrounding him and the appropriate plot to give Captain America, because I remember saying to some people that I was a little nervous that this movie was going to be too S.H.I.E.L.D. centric, and I'm going to go ahead and confess, up until this movie came out, S.H.I.E.L.D. was never something that was really that important to me as a viewer. Like, I never saw S.H.I.E.L.D. as this really important facet of the Marvel Universe, other than the fact that it comes from the comics and it's something to kind of get our characters moving in that Avengers direction. But now, it's definitely something that's much more important than it was before for me. Especially now while I'm watching Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's another thing. If you haven't caught up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I highly suggest you do so, and then go watch Winter Soldier, because after what happens in Winter Soldier and what happened in this past week's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is more than likely connected, I can only imagine what's going to happen next week in next week's episode. But the writers and the directors, I don't know which one was which, but one of them, or at least one pair of them, were involved with Community, so they kind of have a good sense on nerd culture, so to speak, especially with that recent G.I. Joe animated episode. I mean, my god, they actually did that. That was the first time that I was exposed to a Community animated episode, because I've heard that they've done it before, but I didn't know the full extent of it. So you can definitely tell that they respected the character, and they decided to give him a story that was worth giving to Captain America. Out of all the Avengers, he was the one that needed to be paired off with S.H.I.E.L.D. and have this thing happen with S.H.I.E.L.D. that just couldn't be any more appropriate with Captain America. And they also respected some of the supporting characters. Black Widow's back again, and she's doing her thing. Nick Fury as well. Nick Fury is less Samuel Jackson in this movie than he has been in the past, and I really dug that. And some other characters that were introduced here, such as the Winter Soldier himself and Crossbones, they were all really good. My only little nitpick would be that maybe a couple of them could have used a little bit more screen time to know what they're all about, but there's these things called sequels, so we'll leave it at that. They also know how to handle references. Obviously, they're going to make some mentions to the Avengers, and maybe you're going to see an image here and there, or a line of dialogue that's going to make you go, whoa! Especially one particular reference that I highly recommend you keep your ears completely open and paying close attention, because when this character says it, he says it like really fast because he's all panicked and everything. Pay close attention, and you might be hearing another reference to a potential future Marvel movie. Unfortunately, the only thing that I don't feel like these directors got a good handle on would be some of the action sequences. They were good, and every now and then you would see a shot that looked awesome. And dear God, one of the opening sequences has Captain America taking out all these guys aboard a ship, and every time he just hits somebody with either his fist or his shield, you felt it. The movie's PG-13, so they're not going to show an awful lot in terms of graphic nature, but when you hear it, you're like, oh, you're just wincing the entire time, and it's awesome. It's awesome seeing Captain America do his thing, but that's only when you actually get to see what he's doing, because sometimes they get a little carried away with the shaky cam to the point where you just can't see anything. And it's a shame that sometimes you have these shots in there where you do see an awesome move, you do see an awesome like switch of a weapon or something that looks genuinely cool, but bookending those shots are these other shots where you don't know what the hell's going on, and I just wish that they would keep the camera at a steady level so we can see what the hell's going on. But overall, Captain America the Winter Soldier is definitely one of the best Marvel movies to date. It had some great handling of the characters as well as the story, introducing this dynamic new thing that I can't talk about that happened in this movie that's definitely going to change an awful lot of things for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as handling some good references to not only past Marvel movies but as well as some potential future ones. And like I said, the only downside would be that I wish I could have seen a little bit more of these characters to see what they're going on, especially Falcon, because he was really well played by Anthony Mackie and really well handled by the writers and the directors. But I wish I could have seen a little bit more of them, especially Crossbones. And even though I was a little frustrated with the action sequences, the only thing that frustrated me most about this movie was not so much the movie itself, but the marketing behind it. I found it kind of funny that one of the biggest themes about this movie, which I found highly relevant, would be leaking information, that sort of thing, especially because we're all kind of paranoid with this whole thing about the NSA and WikiLeaks. There's even some images early in the middle of this movie where they show Julian Assange and things like that. And it's a very relevant topic, and I love movies, superhero movies nonetheless, that take relevant topics and kind of intertwine them with the actual comic booky story to make it most appealing. I love that, especially when you take something like that and combine it with the whole theme of trusting one another and secrets and all that, which was really this movie's biggest strength, especially when this thing that gets unraveled becomes revealed. But I find it kind of funny that one of the biggest themes of the movie would be leaking information and showing too much and having things being posted on the internet, because one of my biggest frustrations while watching this movie was the fact that some of these things were already spoiled for me. There were some things in this movie that were supposed to pack an emotional punch or have some sort of deeper meaning or were supposed to be this big surprise, but I was probably one of the few people who weren't surprised by any of those things, because of the fact that we have articles on casting listings, we had set photos, we had these stupid trailers that showed too much. The second trailer, the last trailer for Captain America, I hated that thing. I really hated that thing because it ruined one of the big moments of this movie that was supposed to be this major surprise, and I'm like, okay, well, that happened, let's move on. Now, David, why didn't you just not watch the trailer? I didn't want to, but then they showed it in the theater when I went to go see some movie. I can't remember what movie it was, but they showed it, and by the time I was ready to get up and leave so that I didn't have to watch the trailer, it was too late. Like, one of the big things is, at the beginning of this movie, at the beginning of the trailer, sorry, it just infuriated me so much, and I really hope that they actually go ahead and they pass, I don't know if it's a bill or something, but whatever the hell it is, they pass it so that trailers will only be 2 minutes instead of 2.5, because I think it's about time that they cut things down and withhold some things from us to make us, feel much more energized and surprised when we go to the movies, because that's one of the magic things about going to the movies. Please, just give us this. Okay, rant over. I will go ahead and say that even though this movie is a slight notch below Iron Man 3, I will say it's definitely a whole lot better than the Thor: The Dark World. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and give Captain America: The Winter Soldier a 9 out of 10, but I will say it's a low 9 out of 10. I'm still a little hesitant to say, yes, it's one of the best, it's the best Marvel movie so far. But it's definitely one of the best, and definitely one that you cannot skip out should you want to go into Avengers 2 with a full head of knowledge and knowing what the hell's going on. Let me know what you guys thought of Captain America: The Winter Soldier if you did see it, and if you have, look forward to what I'm hoping will be a really good spoiler discussion video coming soon. I don't know if it's going to be a collab or by myself, but I'm looking forward to talking more Captain America with you guys, especially after the events that transpired in this movie. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Take care.